Welcome back to another video, and this will serve as the practical or the start of the practicals that we'll be going through. And yes, do not forget that this is where we stopped in the last video. So we had this basic syntax. If you don't have yours again, it's okay. You can just type it all over again. So the first thing we want to do, remember from the video where we learned about the syntax is, what is the syntax? Syntax is how you write something. The structure is just like English when you have a grammatical structure of writing things. So the same way, syntax is the programming structure of writing queries. Okay, so if you want to create a new query, it will be create table, then your table name. Okay, then you can have column 1 name, and you have your data type, then optionally a constraint, optional constraint. And of course, you can have another column name, column 2 name. And of course, so that I won't keep going this way, I will just break this down this way. I'll hit tab, enter again, I break this way. So this is how you see me write most of the queries. Okay, so column 1 name, of course, data type, then the next one, column name 3, then data type, because data type is required, is not optional. So this is the syntax. This is how you create a new table. In our case, we want to name our table SQL table. Oh, SQL basics, I mean. Do not forget, we are working with Introduction to SQL. This is the database we created together. Okay, if you've forgotten how this is your first video, right click on databases or alternate shift N. Go to create and click. You take your cursor forward, then click on this guy. Once you click on it, it gives you this window. You type in what you want, which is Intro to SQL. Like I said, the naming convention does not really matter. So you see there is no underscore in this one. Yours can be all capital. It's fine. It works. So but it's a preference now. Okay, using the snake case, and it's a good practice as well. So it's a good practice and a preference. Okay, so I use snake case most times. If I want space between my table, if I want it to be SQL basics, I will have to use double quotes this way. So you can use double quotes if you want the space to maintain, or if you want it to be in a certain way, if you want to write it in a particular way, SQL basics, for example. If you want your table name to be exactly like this, use the double quote. Why? You understand the logic behind quote is that this is exactly the way I want it. This is exactly what someone said. When you quote someone, you're saying exactly what they said. So when you put something in quotes, you're saying do not alter it, keep it like that. And SQL respects quote. Use double quote for column name and single quote for records. We'll see that when we get to records. So I'll remove the quotes. Of course, use my underscore. Now, even if I write my name like this, my table name like this, without putting it in quotes, it will not respect the capitals. It will just convert everything to lowercase. Okay, so that's something you should take note of. So even if I write it like this, I can later reference it as this way, SQL or lowercase basics. It's just going to work the same way because it was not in quotes, right? So let's look at that and move it this way. Of course, now this was the syntax. Now I have an actual table So I'll take it out. The first column is, let's say, ID, and let's say ID, and we'll say it should be, in this case, let's say integer. Okay. Next is database. Okay, let's call it DB. I'll write it in full, and it should be string. Oh, don't mind me. This is VARCHAR. Okay, so we can just have it as VARCHAR. No, it's not spelled correctly. VARCHAR, VARCHAR. Then I can just put 20 in there. I'll just put 20. And what else? Let me put in type. Okay, and type I'll put in VARCHAR as well. VARCHAR. Also put in 20. All right. Okay, so this is what we have, and this is what we want to use. Of course, we'll still create tables that will let us use most of the major or important data types, but for now, let's just keep things simple, and we can see how to check for our tables when we create one. Do not forget, we are in the introduction to SQL. Every other thing is collapsed. Okay, so this is what we have right here: schemas, tables. So I'll execute this query now, and do not forget that this is the button to use. Now I will use this the first time, execute query, and I told you my cursor can be anywhere right here. Okay, do not model things up. At least there should be one space between what you write. Okay, it's a good way of writing things. See, space, model things up. In this case, if you model it up, it sees it as just one thing. So I'll come here, and the last one, that's another thing to take note of. The last column does not always take a comma, even if it's on a single line. Let me show you that this can be written as, if I execute, as this. So I can bring this up here. Oops, ID. And bring this up here. I can write the same thing at the top as this. So let me expand this for now. So this is a single query. This is exactly the same thing, just on a single line. It's still a single query. Okay, so you can write it, but this way now it's hard to read, right? Okay, so that is why I'll not be using this method, but you can keep yours on a single line and execute your query. So remember, the last one does not take a comma. If you put it, it will throw an error. So let me show you. I'll put a comma intentionally, and then bring that back and execute it. Okay, so with this button, I'll click on execute. Make sure my cursor is somewhere. Oops, cursor is somewhere in here. It can be at the top, it can be here, it can be on this line, at the end of the line as well. Doesn't really matter. So execute it, and boom. Now it says error. And this is something you get used to even from the very start. You get used to reading the errors, and you can see that it is on the message tab automatically. The only time this would switch to data output is when we run a query that includes select all, or that includes select. Okay, so when we have a thing that includes select, then we're likely to get an output. However, if we don't, we either get a success message or an error message. And now we're getting an error message. It says syntax near. It says syntax error. Now, syntax error means the way you wrote it. Like I said, it's just like in English, a grammatical structure. So now I was telling you, the way you wrote it, there's something you put somewhere that you're not supposed to put. And what is it? It says near or at line 5. Where's line 5? This is line 5, based on this query. And of course, this is the first one. It follows the normal line. Now, if it's not saying directly, it's pointing here, but it's saying near or at. So it's is most times before it, and it is this what comma. So I'll just take it out and execute again, and boom, you can see the message we got. It says create table query returned successfully in 396 milliseconds. That's quite a long time. Yours will probably not be up to that, or might be even longer than that, depending on the efficiency of your system and how powerful your machine is. Okay, so if we go to data output, of course we won't see anything. Now, how do we check our table? Just to confirm it physically. Do not forget we're in the database we want to use. Intro to SQL. Click all the way down. Expand tables. It's still not there, and this happens sometimes. All you have to do is what? Right click and refresh, and you see immediately it shows one. And we can see that even though we wrote it this way, SQL converted it to all lowercase. Take note of that, because we didn't put it in quotes, so it disregards everything and keeps it on all lowercase. Of course, that is what I want, and that is why I left it that way. So how do we now see what is inside the table, or see what we have created? We need to run a select query. So this is select asterisk from SQL basics. Asterisk means all is a wildcard, and I'll explain the all in context properly in the video. So I'll run this, then wait, and you can see now I'm seeing what is inside that table. And you see that it automatically switched from message. The message is just successfully run, and the time it took to run. This has nothing for now, of course. If I go to data output, you can see now I have something, because I run a query that has to do with select. You can see the columns ID, integer, VARCHAR 20, the character length is 20, and type is what? 20 as well. Okay, so going back to this button so that we understand the differences. Remember, we have created this table already. Now if I try to do execute script, it will want to go through everything, and I'm saying okay, try and go through everything. Let me put it here, put my cursor here, everything again. Now somehow it's skipping this, and it's saying, oh, there's nothing in here for me. But if I put it in there, once I put values in here, we get the error we're supposed to get. So most times we don't accidentally want to run everything from the top. Maybe I just want to run this, and I click on this. It's still pointing to the query previous or query before it. Okay, so since it's pointing to the query before it, that means something is wrong. Well, yeah, trying to run this is pointing to the query before it, so that is an error. So what should you use instead? Make sure you always use this guy. If I go back to data output, nothing will be there anymore. I have to rerun this query again using our button, execute query, because that's what we'll be using. Then I see what I want. So the difference between these two buttons are now clear. So stick to execute query. That's what you'll be using. Now that we have a database and we have a table inside, we can see our table. Let's look at what we have under this section. So right here we see columns, and you can expand. You see all your columns. If we had used some constraints, we see our constraints right here. Also, if we have some keys, primary key, foreign key, we'll see them right here. If we index the column, we'll also see it right here. What is indexing? Indexing is a way to optimize a frequently called column. Okay, as a way to optimize a frequently called column. And yes, this is what we have in the table. So we probably want to insert some data into this table for now, so that we don't have an empty table, right? And how do we do that? I'll go to insert into SQL basics, that's the table name, values. Of course, based on what we learned from the theory class, you will notice that you have to put in all of this again, right? You have to put in all of this again, this way and this way, right? You type in or you type out all the column again. But when should you type out all the columns? You only need to retype out all the columns when you do not plan to insert values for all columns. Again, you only type out all the columns when you do not plan to insert values for all the columns. Let me show you what I mean. So the first value, we want to say the first ID is 1. Since it's integer, I'll just put 1 there. And the DB will be Postgres, and the type is relational. So it's a relational database. I'll run this with a single button, execute query, and it says successful. Right, like I said, you only get a success message or an error message. Do not forget that this can be on a single line like this. I'll break it down for formatting so you can readability. So it says successful. I go to data output. I will not see what is in there. What must I do? We run my select all. And I'll run select all again. And now, if I expand this, you can see we now have a record. And total row now makes sense. We now have 1 in there. Postgres relational database. Okay, good. So if I remove this, okay, let me copy and paste it. So keep that at the top first. So if I remove this, will it work? Yes, it will work. So I'll just change this to 2. Although if I don't change it to 2, it will still work. Okay, it will still work. Because we don't have constraints. This does not have a constraint. It's not unique. It's not a primary key. Okay. So now I've removed it. So I'll change this to 2. I'll change this to my SQL, and it's also relational. Okay. And let's do MongoDB. I'll make it. I'll say non-relational or no SQL. Sometimes it's just called no SQL. Okay, non-relational. You can see that for records we are using single quotes. I'm not using double quotes here. Okay. See, the only thing we removed was this. Of course, we change the record because we don't want to duplicate this. If I run it, it's still successful. If I run select all again, just bring my cursor down there. Now I have the 2 records. Let me show you. See, second one, MongoDB, non-relational, just like that. Okay, so that is what we have, and that way we see that this is not required, but there is a time when we should use it. Let me show you when. If, for example, I'll copy this again. Of course, I'll just delete all of this. Now, one thing I should quickly establish here is immediately execute a query. Okay, immediately execute a query. Now, let me show you what I was just about to do. Oops. Now, if we use this button again, just emphasis on this button. I come here. Do not forget that it will want to run everything from the top, and if I run it directly, it says SQL basics already what exists, because it's trying to run this from the beginning. Then it will go to this, then it will go to this, and go to this. So we don't use this one, just for emphasis. Now, we want to insert for a new database, but we don't want to put in everything yet. Let's say, for example, we don't know whether it's relational or non-relational, or for example, we don't know the database name, but want to include another relational database. So what do we do? Now, before we do that, one thing I want to emphasize is that immediately you execute a query, it is permanent. It is what? Permanent. So whatever you have run or executed has gone into your database already. So even if I delete this, even if I delete the query, it doesn't delete what is in my database. Even if I undo, or for example, let's say it's not supposed to be ID, or it's not supposed to be DB, and I change it to database. For example, even if I change it to database, if I run this, it will not run. It won't. Let me show you. I've already executed it. it won't, because it's saying this database already exists, and you're just trying to say, I only want to edit this. No, it doesn't work that way. There's a way around that, and that's where we use the alter. So major thing is, whenever you execute a query, you can delete it completely because it has done its job. You can only keep it for reference purpose. Oh, you want to remember how you created the table for next time's sake, keep it. And you can even save the entire file, right? You remember, just save it, give it a name, so that when you reopen next time, you can continue with your query. But for me, I will not keep any of them. Okay, so take this out completely as well. So I'll be keeping this. This is one thing I will always keep, because we need to run it over and over and over again as needed. Okay, so now this is what we have, and I want to include a database, but I don't know the database name yet. If I take this out and I put in one and relational, do not forget that I do not know the name of the database yet. So let me call this 3. I'll call this 3. Okay, and if I execute this without this at all, what will happen is, let me run this, select all, that's what I executed. Now what's going to happen is that 3 will go to ID normally, while relational will go into the database column, and this last one, type, will be empty. Even though what we inserted is what? The ID and the type. SQL will not automatically know. So we have to tell it. And how do we tell it? We'll say, I'm only giving you ID and type. So I've excluded what? DB. So I'm telling you that I'm only including ID and type. So if I run this now, 3 will go into this place and relational will go into this place. But for the sake of this video, let me run it without it. Successful. Let's run select all again. See what happened. And this is not what we want. Relational is supposed to be here, and this is supposed to be empty, so that later we can provide the database name. Okay, so quickly I will delete that. Of course, we'll look at delete together later. So I'll just write a query to delete it. Delete from SQL basics where ID equals 3. Alt F5. Okay, it's done. I'll delete the query. I'll run select all again, and you see it is gone. Okay, now what should we do to avoid that problem that we just saw? We'll say ID comma type. So I'm telling you that I'm only providing the ID and type, and if I run this, successful, I will run this again. Now you see it is now perfect the way we want it. So we have an ID of 3. We don't have the database name yet, but we know it will be a relational data type, database type, right? I hope that is clear. So most times we will not be using this. The only time we will use it is when we do not want to provide all the values. Okay, so let's insert 2 more values. And how do you insert multiple values in one go? That's what I will show you. Let me tab it. So the 4th one will be another database. We'll call this SQL Server, as Microsoft SQL Server, of course. Relational database, and copy this. Then we'll add another one, 5. Change the number, 5. Then we put, should we mix it? Okay, let's just put the next, let's just put under relational. And this will be Oracle. Let's say Oracle DB. Oracle DB. write it together though. Let me put this way. Oracle DB. And I think it's better if we write it separately. DB, yeah. Alright, I'm missing a quote, single quotes. So let's add more. Let's copy this. Okay. Ctrl V, Ctrl V, Ctrl V. So I'll expand the query too so you can see everything I'm doing. Okay. So let's add SQLite to wrap up the SQLite. Yeah, to wrap up the relational database, and then let's add two more. Cassandra. Let's add Cassandra. Let's add Redis first. It doesn't really matter anyway. So that's non-relational. Then we'll add another non-relational. So let's add Cassandra. Cassandra. Okay. So yeah, I'll change it to 6, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's not 7, 7, 8. So this is what we'll have now. If I run this to throw an error, do not forget that from this place, all of these are just, all these lines are just a single query. Okay, it's just a single query. Now let me intentionally run it so that you can understand. Let me put this at the top. This time, put this at the top. Now this is starting from line 4, this particular query, right? So let me run it. Okay, let's expand it so we see the error. It says, oops, line 4. It says there's an error at line 4, and you see that it's pointing to what? To 5. Now, see the trick right here. The query itself, the entire code is starting at line 4. So if you say line 5, this is supposed to be line 5. But see where it's pointing to 5. This place, line 7. And that's why I mentioned earlier that the line, this line is actually line 7, no doubt. But the query, from the error you're getting, the message, it is based on that particular query. So this is line 4 of this query. This is the first line, second line, third line, fourth line, based on the way I broke it down. Do you get? So this is line 4, and it says near or at. And do not forget, I said sometimes it's just before that particular line, which is this place. And what is the error? Let me expand this again. You must have commas for multiple value insertion. You must have commas after every query, after every value. This is one value, this is one record on its own. So put a comma, another comma, another comma, another comma. The last one is where you now put the semicolon. So let's run this again. It's running complete. So let me expand it so you see it says 5 inserted successfully. I intentionally brought this up so you can understand the line thing. So I'll take it down back. And Ctrl V, and I'll run it again. Expand it fully. And yes, you can now see only this one has no, because we didn't put anything in there. And you can see we have all our databases. And yes, do not forget that this only happened because there was no validation on this column. If we had used the constraint such as not null, this would have also thrown an error. Okay, now you know how to create a table. You know how to insert values into a table. You know how to read values from that table. So basically, we can do the CR, which is, we're looking at the CRUD operation, CRUD, CR. So we have UD left, even though I deleted, but I didn't really teach it. So we'll do that again. So yes, since we have something, I'll keep this simple for now. So this is where we'll stop, and the next video will continue on. For example, I want to add a new column. I want to change something. I want to rename the column. We didn't remember to put a column that is necessary as well. We'll see that in the next video. Until then, stay up, stay active, keep practicing. I'll see you in the next one.